hello, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. It is my so-called book club here on my so-called Gen X Life. My name is Natalie. Joining me tonight is Grendelson. What up, Grendelson?
What up, hello, basketball fans?
We're not there yet. Are they doing the play-in games tonight? Is tonight the first four? I think it might be. I always forget. They added the first four play-ins after I really stopped paying attention. So I don't know.
Listen, I remember when they went to 64 teams. So
from 48 to 64. Yep.
Yeah.
It was always such a big part of my 80s, 90s childhood. I lived for the tournament. Now I don't even pay attention.
No, we were just talking about that. The two big things in March that just happened, the Academy Awards and March Madness. And as we age, as we get older, we just don't care. We don't seem to care as much anymore. I cannot remember the last time I watched the Oscars.
Yeah, me neither.
And as far as basketball goes, I mean, usually for me, it's however my team is doing. But ever since COVID, I just feel like, I don't know. Just don't have it.
Corporations have just pulled out the humanity in everything, in every industry and product. It's like that fun team thing, team spirit around basketball or the movies that I loved. I don't know. It's just all gone. And I do other things.
I feel like we got a little bit of that with the Olympics, and then the World Baseball Classic, tomorrow the United States plays for the championship. That's, kind of cool.
That's true. They are going on. I had cut myself off from present day media so much. I don't even have TV or cable. I have apps, so I have no idea what's going on in the world. I kind of like it that way. I probably should pay attention a little bit more, but
I get everything streaming. I do, but I'm constantly on AP News and, I am not. I live in the 90s and 80s because of this channel, and that's kind of how I'm keeping it for now. Stay there. Let's stay there, and let's talk about the GI generation and
let's do it.
And the silence, because I know.
Yes, I learned a lot about the silence reading this chapter, and I'm excited to talk about it. First off, let's say hello to everybody who is in the chat tonight. Hello, Joseph. Hello, Little Joe the Moonlight Cat. How's it going, Dale Glassmeyer? Hello, Chris Thompson. Rachel, hello. Kitea is here. It's been a week. It has been a week. Hello, everyone. All right, so we are up to chapter 10 in Generations by Strauss and Howe. Let me get it there. We are in the second part of chapter 10, which is the Great Power Cycle, the earliest part of the 20th century. Tonight, we are going to be covering the GI generation and the silent generation. And I really honestly thought this was going to be a big discussion about GI and then maybe a side note about the silent. But after reading and really making notes, I think both generations are going to get just as much love in tonight's discussion. So I'm excited.
The silents are very underrated.
They are stealth. I learned that they instituted a lot of the things, or they did a lot of stuff that I blame boomers for, and I don't know. We'll get into it, but yeah, they were a stealthy little bunch. So I love classic Hollywood too. It's a really neat time. And this is a time where the documentary that we're going to watch at the end of this book club, or at the end of this book, The Century of the Self, really ties in with the GI and the silent generations as to how they were manipulated through media, or how the culture was kind of set in motion through the powers that be. So it's going to be a good night for discussion. I did have some notes that I need to bring up because I had it on my laptop and didn't bring it over to the desktop. All right, I got that ready. I'm excited. So let's get started. I probably should actually bring up the book instead of just bringing my own copy into the screen. So let me do that real fast. Could have been.
Shout out to March 17th, St. Patrick's Day.
That's right.
I'm on my third Guinness now.
Nice. Good for you. I'm not a drinker, or else I would be.
it's about what, 30 degrees out there, 32, something like that.
It's where I'm at. It's in the mid 30s. Let me just tell you, it went from like 50 degrees down to 18 degrees last night. We had a tornado on Sunday, so it dropped from 50 to 19 during the tornado, and then it stayed at 19 to 20 for a day, and now it's back up into the 30s. And on Thursday, it's supposed to be 82. So welcome to Missouri weather.
Well, I don't want to. I mean, I'm not really rubbing it in because it's like not healthy. But it was 96 degrees out in North Hollywood.
Oh Lord.
So
I will take my 30 degrees and $2 gas.
Well, I saw $7.35 today.
That's what I heard.
That, but I saw it.
I've heard that it's hitting $7 out there. I just wanted to rub that in on my end. So we both have our pros and cons to where we live.
I know, but honestly, I was thinking about you earlier. I was like, I wonder what it is in Natalie's woods. We're in the 30s, and we are about to hit. I think we just hit $3 in gas. It's gone up almost $1 in the last week and a half. $3,
so,
geez.
I know. It's out of control, is what it is.
Not since 2015.
You just got to get out of California. Oh, yeah. Dale. I mean, you can let Dale in, but just so you know, you walk on camera when you walk through that door. So
68 a week ago.
No, it's okay. Hold on just a second, guys. Hold on.
No, dude, I'll vamp.
I gotta hold on just a second. Give me just a second, guys. I'll be if you want to talk a little bit about what your thoughts on the GI generation, I need a minute. I'm so sorry. All right, let me
go ahead, do your thing.
Yeah, okay. Give me like 2 minutes, and you can talk about the greatest gen.
I'll talk about GIs.
Yeah, that's what I meant. GIs, which I believe are called the greatest gen by
the greatest gen.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know, I mean, for me, that's not a bad moniker. They won the war. Those guys who fought the war, and they won the war, and they beat the Nazis. Yay.
Right.
And they gave us 7 presidents.
They absolutely did. 7, which is insane. I'll be right back, and I'll let you talk about that for a second, and I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
So the 7 presidents you can see on page, whatever this is here, page 262 of the book. You know, you got LBJ, Reagan, Nixon, Ford, JFK, Jimmy Carter, George Bush. And then after George Bush, you had, 2 boomers. And then what do? We go to a silent instead of going back to a boomer. That's pretty funny to me. But the GI generation are, they were my grandparents. My grandparents were born in 1915 and 1918. So they definitely, both of my grandfathers fought in World War II. My paternal grandfather actually was a engineer, and he worked for Hughes Aircraft after the war. Came up with some of the first drones.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he was actually one of the inventors of one of the first drones, and they lived right over by the Hughes Aircraft company, which is now Playa Vista residential community, which makes me really. I mean, I go to see movies over there now, and every time I do, I'm like, "Hi, Grandpa," because I think.
Wow, I think most Gen Xers, well, not most, but a lot of Gen Xers had grandparents in the GI generation.
Yeah, a lot of them did. Most Gen Xers' grandparents are going to be GIs or silence,
right? Or lost. There's some lost.
There's some, but yeah,
a lot of us have silent parents. So it just depends on what age of a Gen Xer you are,
and where your parents were too.
And where your parents were in their
life. I'm a core Gen Xer. My parents are the oldest boomers.
The oldest boomers.
Oh, and speaking of the oldest boomers. The oldest boomer in my family did pass away last Wednesday. My
goodness.
My uncle has gone to the great boomer room in the sky.
Oh, well, I'm so sorry for your loss.
rest in peace, Harley.
Absolutely.
And I made fun of him, but you know,
right.
Definitely, my mom is real broken up. So,
of course, losing anybody is that's hard. I mean,
yeah,
we're going to start losing a lot of boomers. I mean, you know, that's where we're at in our cultural cycle.
Well, one thing to talk about with that, when we get to it, they're still going to live longer than any other generation.
Yeah, they are.
Due to the advancing in health, more of them are going to survive into their 80s and 90s. They're already, you know, the what is it? That average lifespan is moving up there. And
right.
They are seriously still going to suck up those resources that traditionally would have gone to other cohorts because they're just still so big.
Yep. And I think, that happened a lot when we get to the silent generation. That kind of happened to them with their elders. They kind of got skipped over, and everybody above them and older than them and younger than them got all the programs and all of the benefits and all of the stuff. And then they were just like, hey, what about me? Like, we're right in the middle.
They only got their president after the boomers did.
I know. And I mean, that was,
Yeah, Gen X has no presidents, but the silence didn't either.
Yeah, the silence barely got one in, and that was a whole crazy set of circumstances with that one. So,
what's funny is Joe Biden's even referenced in these.
Yes, he is.
These chapters, and I had to go back.
I know, because he was in a huge plagiarism scandal back in the 80s. A massive.
I had an old joke I used to tell about that.
Yeah.
Bush, Clinton, and Biden are on an airplane or on a sinking ship, and it's going down. And the captain says, "All right, everybody in the lifeboats, women and children first." And Bush says, "Fuck the women and children." And Clinton says, "Do we have time?" And Biden says, "Do we have time?"
That's pretty bad.
But hey,
I can make fun of but I'll allow it.
Hey, I'm a liberal, but I can make fun of Democrats too.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. I can make fun of all sides. I'm not a liberal or conservative. I'm just an independent person, so I like to make fun of all of them. Yeah, Kamala would have been a Gen X president. I honestly think the next president's going to be a Gen X president. It'll be interesting to see who it's going to be, but we'll get into that here in a second. Let's get into the GI generation. My cat is going to have to go outside.
Oh,
2 more seconds. Right back.
Joseph says the oldest person alive is a GI generation at 116, born in 1909. Just read that. Yeah. I wasn't sure what the oldest person was. I know that I thought there was a 114-year-old, but that is pretty crazy. It's interesting to me. My great grandmother was born in the 19th century. So it's a fact that my own child was born in the 21st century, that I knew somebody 19th, 20th, and 21st. What if Gen X skipped and Gen Y became president? Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a possibility. Gen Yers, millennials are old enough because they're over 35. Mm-hmm. And we could end up with a silent generation situation. I think that is highly plausible. Highly plausible.
Yep. I'm going to blow that theory out of the water here before this night's over.
But I'd love to hear it because that's what this whole thing is about. And also, you know, we're just bouncing theories off.
Absolutely. You know? This is all what ifs. Yeah. I'm using all that we're reading about history to project into the future, or to now, into what's about to happen, which I think is the whole point of this book, is to do that. And yeah, Obama is technically an Xer per Strauss and Howe, but man, he is not an Xer in any way, shape, or form. He is such a boomer. Oh, I know. So this is where those dates kind of go iffy on that kind of stuff, but yeah, I consider Obama to be the most boomer president we've ever had.
1961.
Yeah, it was early 1961. So, you know, he's definitely Generation Jones, but he is not an Xer in any.
Also, I would like to echo the chat saying Liz Taylor back in the day was a hottie.
Oh God, yes. She was smoking hot.
National Velvet. Boom, 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 boom. And I know she was underage, but come on.
She was absolutely stunning. And then all of her little scandals with all her husbands and everything. She was quite the interesting lady. All right, let's start off on page 261, the very start of the chapter at the very bottom. We're talking about the GI generation. In his inaugural address, President Kennedy crisply defined his peers, which, of course, Kennedy was a GI generation, defined his peers as born in this century. So that's a big one. The GI generation were the first to be born in the 20th century. It starts at 1901 and goes to 1924. And among this history-absorbed generation, many do perceive the 20th as their century. And I can't really argue with them. The GI first wave included Walt Disney, Arthur Godfrey, and Ronald Reagan, had more of the jaunty optimists, and the last wave, the Lee Iacocca's, George Bush, and Lloyd Benson's of the group, more of the clean-cut rationalists. Several scholars have suggested that the 1900 birth year represents what Leonard Kane calls a generational watershed. Kane documents how the children born just after 1900 were much more favored than those born just before in families, schools, and jobs, and how that favored treatment led to important personality differences that lasted a lifetime. I think it's so interesting how just one or two birth years separating can really make a difference in someone's life and how they experience the world.
That turn of the century, though, that was a huge part of history. You know, that going into the 20th century, everything was changing so fast. Industrialization was moving at such a clip.
Yeah.
You know, I can totally see how just being born on one side or the other, you know, especially like even in like one family, I could totally see like, you know, the older brother was born in 1895, the younger brother is born in 1901, and you know, the kid who's born in 1901 is going to get the lion's share of the resources in the family just because of where the society is.
And I think you could mirror that with today. I think we are in a very similar situation as far as the changing with the internet and AI, how that's changing the world so fast, and how there's such a difference between, you know, again, somebody born in the late 1970s and the late 1980s to the late 1990s. Like all of this is changing so fast. So I got a lot out of this chapter. I don't know. It's just like we've been through this before, and it's interesting to see how our ancestors dealt with all of these changes in their own lives and in the society, and how it worked with government and everything. I think it's fascinating.
You can go back and look. I mean, you go back even 100 years, though, it's nowhere near as important going from 1799 to 1800. I would venture to guess 50% of the people living around that time didn't even know what the year was.
Right. I know.
Or may have, or more often, more likely, there was a lot of different years around the world. So
yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, my brother and I were talking about this last night about how the American experience as an American from about 1880, well, actually post-Civil War, so 1865 up until present day, the American human experience has been so different than any other experience of humanity ever in the history of the world. And it's really hard to compare our history of the last 6 or 7 generations compared to anything older, because it's so different. Like, industrialization changed the world in ways that, you know, we went from the world went, or at least our society went from having to worry about the basics, food, water, and shelter, to where we became such a enriched, civilized society to where we didn't have to worry about the basics anymore. We could do other things. We could become what we wanted to become, and marry who we wanted to marry for love, and like all this stuff that was never part of the human experience before.
Imagine trying to explain what an influencer today is to somebody from, let's just say, 1920.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like,
I
let's
mean,
even go back that far. Let's go back 1950.
yeah,
But try to explain that to somebody from the 17th century. No, you're absolutely right. The previous set of generations, while we can take a look and see what's going on in their social climates in the world in general, there's so many hyper localized cohorts that you can't really apply the generational theories to a mass group of people, because that mass group of people didn't talk to each other.
Right.
They didn't interact with each other.
Right.
So
and they were in different places. Your life in New York is different from your life in Colorado, and
you never interacted. If you lived on the West Coast, you probably never made it to the East Coast. If you lived in America, you may never go overseas,
right?
Or go to Canada. And that's just, heck, you probably never made it out of your own state most of the time.
Right. A lot of times, most of the world was just the 10, 20 mile radius around you. And that was about it. And that was one of the reasons why I'm always still to this day such a big supporter of having a nation of states, is because all the states are different. All the states have different people, different resources, different climates, different everything. And so when you try to make blanket one size fits all rules for everybody, more than just your basic constitutional stuff, when you start trying to manage 300 and something million people over all this vast space, it becomes impossible, because
especially
it's too much.
Especially when you have disproportionate state populations.
Right. And each state has different needs.
Yeah, because what is best for forget what my population is, but we're a lot, and number 1 or 2 or 3, I forget where we are, but California's big, and we're bigger than others, 5 or 6 other states combined. But does that mean that we have to monopolize everybody's resources? No, we got to share the love. That's why that 14th Amendment is such a great thing.
But what amendment?
14.
The 14th. Which one was that?
That's
gotcha.
Double check. But.
Yeah, the post-Civil War amendments. And it's a whole philosophy situation of how you deal with a society or a country, and a culture that is so vast and so large. How do you manage that when there's so much going on inside like any other place in the world is just a bunch of different countries or a bunch of different societies. But we're a bunch of different states supposedly under one country. And it's a hard thing to really figure out. And I also wonder how things got around back then so well. Like, I always think about like how stuff went quote unquote viral before the internet. Like, how did we all know these same things of information? How did we all know the same
newspapers?
I guess it must have been the newspaper.
There's a lot of newspapers, a lot of correspondence.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah,
people wrote letters to each other, and
that's a good point.
And also, don't forget a lot of those, especially letters from super famous people. Washington, Jefferson, Adams. They've all been published too. So
that's true. They were writing a lot of stuff. That's a good point.
The written word, the communications. You would have. I think there were, obviously when there were people who would move things from town to town, they would pass along information. If you had, and of course, shipping. Of course they would. People who are shipping stuff back and forth overseas, that's how they would get their information.
Right.
The printed word, once the printing press came along, then people got, that along with globalization really helped global communication. So,
and also,
it took weeks or months, but
Right. And before radio and TV, it was very free. Like you could just write what you wanted to who you wanted, and you can get messages out. But once the radio and TV came out, then you had like a controlled.
In America, it was free.
In America, you had and anywhere once you have a state broadcast, for everyone, then you have somebody controlling the message, controlling the narrative, controlling information is being put out to people. So it's just I don't know. I just all these things go around in my head, and I just ask questions while I'm reading.
Dude, Telegram big 1840s. Yep. So the 1840s, Telegram really, I think, also increased the amount of communication that was being, communicated back and forth. Newspapers, really.
Yeah.
That's why freedom of the press was so important. That was why one of the number one amendment.
Well, it's why people like William Randolph Hearst and that kind of a crowd became so powerful, and so
they used it and they got away with it.
Right, and they were in charge of the flow of communication, and I think, that's one thing that has happened in our society. I guess you would call them cultural narrators, people that were the newspaper columnists, the Walter Cronkites of the world, even the politicians, the people that would go on TV or in the newspaper and tell you what was going on. They were cultural narrators, and they were very trusted for a very long time. And in the last 10 or 20 years or so, that trust has completely disintegrated. So, which is why we find ourselves where we're at now. You don't know who to trust on the cultural narration. We don't know what to strive for, what we are, what we're doing. We're all so confused.
Yeah, because there's no more privacy when you're in public life, and so everything that you have is going to be laid out for everyone to see. Mm-hmm. If you're in that type of life and you're that exposed, and we as human beings are inherently flawed, mm-hmm. and no one is perfect, and there's going to be, don't meet your heroes,
right? So, definitely. It's just interesting that the loss of our monoculture and experiencing the same things. Like, even though there was differences between me here in Missouri and you here in California, we still had cultural events and things that happened that we could share as Americans, as people here in, at this same time period from the same generation. We had very common experiences, and a lot of that stuff is going away now completely. Like, there's just no commonality. There's no cultural narrative. There's no anything. We're all just breaking apart.
There is a commonality, but the commonality is that everybody's doing their own thing.
Yeah. And how can you have a society like that?
It's not hyper localized, it's hyper individualized.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's just kind of like a natural progression of where society is at this moment in time. That's not to say that that's what is always going to be. We are a cyclic by nature species. And so there will most likely be some sort of sea change over the next, several years that completely reverses that cycle.
Right.
And starts us to makes us become more and more dependent on each other.
Right.
And what that could be, I don't know, but I think that that's certainly something that could happen. I don't think that the fracturing of the self or the individual is going to continue, simply because there's just too many damn people.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how we all
8 billion individuals being 8 billion individuals rather than 8 billion people in societies broken up into smaller societies.
Yeah.
It's a
it's something that blows my mind when I think about it. I saw something the other day that questioned if we really know how many people really are in the world. Like, how can we trust governments and their numbers?
Oh, that's a great that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
But and the thing is you can't.
No.
You can't possibly know.
Yeah.
You can guess. You can take pretty close. You can get pretty close. And
or you can have governments that lie. Like there's some places there.
Oh,
I've seen
absolutely, I
some
know.
places that think that believe that
Oh,
China's
yeah.
population is about half what they claim it to be.
I've read that recently as well, and I don't necessarily question that narrative because I think it's absolutely true. I think it's absolutely true that there are definitely governments that are putting out misinformation. I'm sure we'll never know what's really going on in Korea,
We won't.
North Korea.
It could be our own state governments because our state governments and their population that depends on how many representatives they get and how they and the electoral college and all of that. So
and you
having to trust all that is really difficult.
And how do you count the hundreds and thousands of unhoused folks too? So
yeah.
I think you can get close, but no, I don't think you'll ever know. I don't think we'll ever know exactly how many people are on this planet. No. Unless you microchip every single person, at birth.
There you go. Let's do it. Let's microchip them all.
Put everybody in a fucking, database. Which,
it's probably coming. Oh God. First wave GIs were truly special kids who grew up in the most carefully shaped of 20th century childhoods, thanks to missionary parents determined to produce kids as good as the lost had been bad. From youth to old age, the babies of the century's first decade commanded the admiration and generosity of older and younger generations.
It's sounding a little familiar.
I know.
That last part about commanding the admiration and generosity, maybe not so much. Well, generosity, yes.
Yeah.
Admiration, I don't think the boomers have admiration for any of the younger generation.
None. And I actually marked that in here a little bit later.
I definitely think that the Gen X is a little more favorable to Gen Alpha and Gen Z and Gen Alpha than millennials.
We're gonna have to be, yeah.
I think millennials are just disdainful. I don't know for a fact, but I think kind of millennials are just disdainful of anybody older than they are.
Yes.
And I think Gen Z is too young to really give a crap.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And we're going to get into that a little bit more here in a minute because that's going to touch on something with the silent that I wrote down here. Let's
I mean this GI generation is they were brought up almost parallel to what the millennials were done.
Yes, and they had the perfect life, basically. Even with the world wars and the depression, like even with that, it's crazy. And maybe the silent more than the GIs, but we'll get there in a second. I'm going to go ahead and read this next part, skipping down a little bit on page 263, where World War I had cheated the optimism of youth. This war, World War II, rewarded it and implanted an enduring sense of civic virtue and entitlement. The combination of good kid first wavers and heroic last wavers produced a generation of enormous economic and political power. What Henry Malcolm describes as a generation of Prometheus and Adam, a generation, as one admirer said of James Reston, that has always shared an implicit belief in progress and the central role of great men. And I thought that was really interesting. Here where it said the combination of good kid first wavers, produced a generation of enormous economic and political power. This should be what's going to happen to the millennials, but I don't think it's gonna.
I don't either.
This here where World War I had cheated the optimism of youth, World War II rewarded it, and implanted an enduring sense of civic virtue and entitlement. I don't see that I see the entitlement in millennials, but not the sense of civic virtue.
No, but not maybe not necessarily civic virtue, but remember that whole thing about inclusivity and globalization and including everybody that kind of hit during the millennials youth? Yes. I think that's kind of gotten on to them. They're kind of like more like everybody deserves they're like everybody deserves something. They're
an everybody gets a trophy generation. That's
kind of
that's definitely them.
I hate that trope, but it's totally true.
It's true. It's true. It started when I was right at the end of my schooling.
I mean, I remember going to Little League and getting a trophy, but that's because we won our frickin' division.
Yeah. All right, let's move forward a little bit to page 265.
I mean, I got a
Hop
medal
over here.
in martial arts too, but that's because I did. I won a contest.
So with the GIs, their personality carried a strong government issue flavor, which was what GI stood for government issue or general issue. The GI life cycle has shown an extraordinary. Now, remember when this book was being written, the GIs were the elders, or they midlife. They were midlife. They were our age. They were the midlifers when this book was was published.
And they're the generation before the boomers, and they're
two generations.
Two generations. Yeah, they're all pretty much dead. I don't think
there's
very few. I think what they said, the oldest human alive is a GI generation.
Yeah, that would make sense. They'd have to be over 100.
There's probably I think there's less than 1,000 of them nationwide.
Yeah. So the GI life cycle has shown extraordinary association with the growth of modern government activity, much of it directed toward whatever phase of life they occupied. This is wild to me. When GIs were young, government protected them from people and things that could hurt them. When they were coming of age, government gave them jobs. When they were rising adults, government provided them with numerous preferential advantages in education, employment, and family formation. When they were in midlife, they benefited from tax cuts and an economy run full throttle. When they reached elderhood, they received newly generous pensions and subsidized medical care and gained more than others from deficit-laden financing schemes that pushed costs far into the future, which we are still paying for. These people just paid themselves out in the form of government program from the time they were born until the time they died. Well, it's unbelievable.
The entitlement. And also, I know there's another through line in there that I remember. They talk about how they feel like they owned the 20th century.
Yes.
That's a thing.
Yeah, they did.
That is a real thing, like ownership of the entire century. This is ours. We fought the war, we won the war, and therefore now we get to reap the benefits.
Yeah.
We and then we're going to stop the spread of communism, and we're going to provide the American lifestyle for every god darn man, woman, and child in America.
Yep, absolutely. And it was all collective. It wasn't individual. It was all of us together through the government. Like it was a very civic minded generation, and they were the one, and we are still living, again, like I've said before, in a lot of the institutions that they founded and built and put into our societies. They really built the blueprint, I guess, for the world that we are still living in today, that's crumbling around us, that's moving into the next phase.
I mean, they are the ones that FDR created the New Deal. They're the ones who executed it.
Yep, so, exactly. Right.
They legitimately did build our highway systems, our infrastructure. They built up our economy during the 50s and 60s when we still had manufacturing. We still made things. What's that? I don't know. Daddy, what's a steel factory?
Let's continue this. Not surprisingly, GIs have always regarded government as their benefactor, almost like a buddy who has grown up right alongside them. And it did. The government went from being, the federal government went from being very small and very like libertarian minded, like the states do their thing, people do their thing.
Yeah.
We're going to stand back up here. And then when FDR got in, the federal government blew up and started all these programs. And so we went from being a very small government nation to a very large federal government nation in their lifetime. And they were all on board. And it makes sense.
Makes sense when you win the war.
Yeah. They have been what historian Joseph Goulden describes as a generation content to put its trust in government and authority. A generation that instinctively abides by the will of the community. What President Bush describes, HW, as a beautiful word with big meaning. People of other ages have always seen civic virtue in this generation, and as a consequence, GIs have been the beneficiary of an unmatched flow of payments and other kindnesses from people older and younger than they.
They got their flowers.
Yeah, they did.
They got let's just say this. They earned their flowers. They got their flowers.
They did. They
helped us out. I mean, honestly, it's difficult it is difficult to be upset at that generation.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
As a generation in toto, they weren't too bad.
They were actually a pretty cool generation, and they did a lot of cool things. Very strong men in their generation, which I really like. That's one thing that we don't see today is kind of masculinity was very praised back then as a way almost that it's demonized now. It feels like it felt like they really hammered home in this chapter how strong the men were in that generation and how they were like taking like no nonsense, which kind of spawned the boomer rebellion of later because of the strong men in this generation.
Well, also, and not just men, women. God, you know, the GI generation women that were in my family, they were working. My paternal grandmother was an RN. She didn't go to college, but she got her registered nursing degree, and she worked her whole life. My maternal grandmother was a bookkeeper and super smart lady, and you know she did retire after my mom, and my uncle were born, but she kept in PTA and you know very active in the community. So
right,
you know, those women of the GI generation, the Rosie the Riveter types,
right.
You know,
they were very essential in keeping their communities together and their families together.
Yeah. And not for nothing, they advanced, you know, feminism and the women's movement much more than the boomers.
They did, and then we're going to get into the Lost as well because they really went feminism with their stuff.
Really.
They went crazy with it. But yeah, like what I really see from this generation is that the men built the systems, the infrastructures, built the big stuff in the country and the infrastructure, and the women built the communities between their women's leagues, their church groups, their families, and I think that was kind of a neat way that it was set up, that it really was very successful, whether you agree with the gender roles at the time or not.
Yeah,
it was very successful.
It doesn't work today, but it worked then because of
could work today, but we don't acknowledge, we've rejected it. Yeah. I mean, we've rejected it as a society, but you know, in areas and towns and small places that still kind of live by this life, this kind of ethos, it still does work. But yeah, in our society, it's kind of just exploded. It's a lot of it has to do with the economy. But anyways, I mean, I like this setup. I thought it was very successful for the time, and they got a lot accomplished. That's for sure. Into the GI facts.
GI facts.
GI facts. I should have some jingles. From first wave to last, the GIs have been a generation of trends, always in directions most people thought for the better. Lower rates of suicide, crime, higher aptitudes, greater educational attainment, increased voter participation, and rising confidence in government. And then throughout the GI life cycle, the federal government directed its attention to whatever age bracket the GIs have occupied, which I think is just
what a coincidence.
Now we're going to get to something that I thought was very interesting, and I'm going to bring up some fun facts about Generation X to go with it. On page 267, it says, from the 1930s forward, the GIs have been the only generation to support the winning candidate in every election. In all three close elections, 48, 60, and 68, GIs tipped the outcome to their preferred candidate. Surveys showed that 80% of all first-wave GI voters opted for Franklin Roosevelt in 32, 85% in 36, the largest single-generation mandate ever recorded. Last-wave GIs congealed into the core of the post-war New Deal. By midlife and elderhood, 65% confirmed an allegiance to the Democratic Party. GIs also included the first generation of blacks to abandon the party of Lincoln. In 1944, 82% of Harlem blacks under age 44 voted FDR versus only 59% of that age. Okay, yada, yada, yada. So it started out with the GIs were the only generation to support the winning candidate in every election. And that was true. until Generation X. You guys ready for this? Generation X has supported the winning candidate in every election in our lifetime. We are the only generation to do this. This blew my mind. Let me make it bigger so we can all see it. I ran the numbers. 1992, Gen X voted for Clinton. In 1996, Gen X voted for Clinton. In 2000, Gen X voted for Bush. 2004, Bush. 2008 and 2012, Obama. 2016, Trump. 2020, we were split evenly between Trump and Biden, and in 24, Trump. On the flip side, millennials voted Gore in 2000, Kerry in 04, Obama in 8 and 12, Clinton in 16, Biden in 20, and Harris in 24. What do y'all think about that? Gen X has chosen every president correctly. I thought that was wild. And millennials have been completely opposite.
I'm trying.
I know, right? It's wild.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. Other than, also wait, did Gen X vote? Did millennials go for the? Did they go for the liberal every time?
Yes.
Did they go for the Democrat every time?
Every time.
I guess that's what it is. It's the millennial cohort overwhelmingly votes Democrat no matter who it is.
Yes.
And everybody else is more or less split on, on the candidates. So what does that mean? I think that means that the Republicans will have a hard time gaining the millennial vote. Whether that means anything or not depends on how Gen Z votes.
Yep.
Because Gen X and boomers are going to become more and more marginalized as we diminish. Mm-hmm. And Gen Z is going to become, Gen Z and even Gen Alpha, because some of them are going to start voting, are going to become much more important to the vote. So
I do not have a breakdown of men, women, and race. I should have done that. I literally pulled this like 30 minutes ago because I was reading this and I was like, wait a second. How does I think, and then I went and pulled the numbers. And I was like, shut up. Gen X has picked every time correctly, which I think is my reasoning for this. What I think this means, what I think this is going to determine who comes out on power in the next two presidential elections.
Yeah,
Gen X or millennial, and it depending on which one determines the first turning of our country, determines the end of the fourth and into the first. Like, which path do we go down? The Gen X led or the millennial led? Because they're two very different spaces, and I just think it's very interesting that Gen X has done it every time.
It's fascinating. That actually, yeah, I'm a little blown away with that.
I know, right?
I'm also thinking, and conspiracy bias here says Gen Z is conservative. I haven't seen that.
Gen X, it depends. Gen Z depends on your gender. If you are a female, you are a lefty, as left can be. If you are a man, you are on the right, and that's basically what it's boiled down to.
And I do believe in Gen Z. I do believe there are slightly more females than males, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think so, slightly.
Close. And if you go there's far more trans, male to female trans than there are female to male. So take that for whatever you.
Yeah. That is. You don't agree Gen Z is conservative? Well, have you talked to a 20-year-old young man They are as right wing as you could. They are unhappy with Trump because they don't think he's right wing enough. Like
Gen Z hetero males.
Yeah, well, yeah.
let's make it very.
Which is the vast majority of them. I mean,
majority, but still not everyone.
Well, no, but we're talking in generalities and majorities here. But yeah, I just it's splitting between men and women now on their politics, which I think is going to be very concerning moving forward. Like how those generations date and mate and marry and procreate, I'm not quite sure, because they are so on. Huh? What? I know. That's the crazy part about it.
They're not gonna, man. They're not having sex. They're not procreating.
And Ponson, I'm a Xennial myself, and I agree with you. I'm kind of right there with you. And I said last week, with these whole theories of the civic generation coming up, and I think it's possible that the civic could be the Xennials, the youngest Gen Xers and the oldest millennials, and then the reactives become the youngest millennials and the Zers. I think that's a possibility. I think we might get a merging of the Xennial, of the Gen X millennial look on life, and through the Xennial, and that would be what I would like. I don't know if it will happen, but it's very interesting. It's wild to think how this has all played out, especially with all that.
And listen, Gen Alpha, they will be voting in 2028 in a very small margin, but they will be.
I mean, it depends on what you consider Gen Alpha. Like, according to Strauss and Howe, Gen Alpha hasn't even started yet. We're still in Gen Z. But if you go off of Pew, it depends. But
I mean, there's I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, we don't have to get into all that.
I want to point something out.
Okay.
In the chat, Nakati said they are red-pilled and have a victim complex in general.
We're talking about the Gen Z boys?
I guess so, yeah. I just want to say, let's not go with red pill, blue pill stuff. That's so not very cool.
Well, I mean, it's very
it's very divisive.
It's divisive, but I feel like it's very the discussion has moved past all that at this point. I feel like we all get our information from different places, and we all have our own beliefs about different things, and it's weird now because it's especially with younger kids, because we lived in a world where if you disagreed with somebody politically, you would have your arguments, then you'd go have a beer afterwards and party together. And they live in a world where if you don't agree with me politically, then you are evil and I can't deal with you, and I'm not going to have you in my world, and I don't want to hear you speak. And that's a very hard world to live in politically, and I can't imagine being that way. I mean, I've had people cut me off because I don't, believe in certain things or question certain things, and I can't imagine if that was my life with everyone. And it feels like the younger kids are living in that world where if you don't agree with me, we can't be friends.
I mean, I will say, I have had to end friendships because of political reasons, but I will also say this. It wasn't that I didn't try to say, hey, listen, we don't get along on this subject. If we want to remain friends, let's just not talk about this subject.
Right.
And we can, be friends every other, realm of possibilities, but let's just not go there.
Right.
And
there's just no need for it.
That person refused to agree to that.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
And it wasn't that I just tried to say, look, I'm not, I have, I have the utmost respect for everybody's different beliefs, and however wacky I might think that they are.
Yep.
And, it's you're right to believe that the world is flat, but it's also my right to believe that if you do, you're an idiot. But
right. The question is, who gets to decide how the things are, what how our country runs. Who gets to decide? Like, if we both have such different opinions on certain things, we we agree on some foundational truths that we can operate from?
Exactly.
And that's I think getting harder and harder, is that both sides aren't operating on agreed upon foundational truths anymore. It's like even those are being questioned, and so it's very difficult to navigate. Yeah, that doom scrolling stuff is nuts. I even find myself as a Gen Xer.
Oh, absolutely.
I find myself doom scrolling, and I hate it. I hate it so much. My life has changed so much since 2020, since post COVID. Like, even the way I operate in the world. Like, I used to be someone that used to love hanging out with people and going out and doing stuff and having things to look forward to and living life. And now it's like, I just want to be home. I just want to, I just want to be here. Like, and I hate that. Like, I don't know how that happened, because that's not me, but I don't know if it's the world or if it's me personally, but I've talked to a lot of other people, and they feel very similarly to that. So I don't know what's happened to people.
My last girlfriend struggled with that. She really had a difficult time reintegrating into society, and being with groups of people for a while. And I on the other hand, I'm a social person. I like being with people. Even throughout COVID, I would go out. I would wear my mask and do what they told me to do. And
I never wore a mask. I was such a rebel.
Social distance and everything, but I would do what they told us to do. But oh man.
It's just crazy how the world just
during
changed.
Those COVID riots that happened around there. One of them happened very close to my house.
Oh my goodness.
I remember during that time period, I was out and about filming the National Guard mustering down the street. So yeah,
like California went nuts with all that. Like here where I'm at, here.
I mean, listen, we had.
You went a little crazy with y'all, but a little crazy with that.
We're a little overboard, but at the same time, it was like, I was like okay with it, because I just didn't want people to die.
Nobody wants anybody to die, but it just this goes into the line of trusting your government and trusting the like I said about the cultural narrators that nobody trusts anymore. Nobody knew who to trust or what to do, and it was a really weird time, and it's done something to our culture that we're still dealing with, and I don't think we're gonna even understand it until decades down the road of what it has done to how we interact with each other, how we do things.
They're still gonna have impact decades.
Yeah, and what it did to our kids. This is one thing about Gen Z that they got screwed. They got taken out of schools. They got cut off from all their friends. They got put on.
I know.
Oh my God. And I look at my 20-year-old and my 19-year-old, and I'm just like.
My 19-year-old lost his high school experience.
So did mine. Yeah. Mine lost all of it. Yep.
Never recovered.
Yeah.
Didn't graduate. And it was just a shit show. And there was literally nothing as a parent that I could do about it to make it any better. Because I just kept sitting there going, what the fuck is the point? He's like, oh, you're right. I'm telling him, like, don't worry about school, man. Who gives a shit?
I know. It just really.
Let's worry about staying alive. Okay, let's worry about not getting COVID.
Right.
Stay home.
Yeah.
You can watch YouTube all day. It's fine.
I love what Rachel says. Might you say 2020 and the changes were a crisis? I think you might say that.
That's where it began. Where it began. It's continuing today. We're in a dumbass war that nobody wanted. We're in a.
I don't know about all that.
We're gonna have a constitutional crisis. We're gonna have a constitutional crisis here in about a year, maybe two. That'll be fun. Possibly.
We're gonna have all kinds of fun stuff. This midterm election is gonna be crazy.
The only thing I can think, though, that may change any of this is that we may have a brand new president before too long, because the current one might not live that long.
I don't know why. I mean, what is he going to be? They've been trying to take him out for years. I mean, he is 80, but 79.
Yeah.
I mean, but if Biden made it through his 4 years, I think I'm pretty sure Trump makes it through his, unless somebody takes it in their own hands, which we're not even talking about that, because that's just not even worth talking about. Let's see. Let's wrap up the GIs here, because we're already 8 o'clock. Let's go over to
talk about some silence, man.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let me wrap up GIs here on page 277. Let me go forward.
I still know what's silent.
Let's see, 277. All right. In countless ways, from transistors and satellites to spacious family homes and a buoyant GNP, a term they invented, GIs gave institutional firmament to the brotherhood of man. I didn't switch this over. Hold on. There we go. The Brotherhood of Man. Sounds like a Twilight Zone episode. Let's see. Envisioned by their beloved missionary fathers. In recent years, news of the retirement or death of GI notables has often prompted remarks from Americans of all ages that no one will be able to replace their competence. Yet their final. Remember, this was being written as they were starting to die. Yet their final ledger will also include colossal debits, unprecedented public and private liabilities, exported assets, depleted resources, harms to the global environment. The generation that inherited so much excess economic capacity and harnessed it to so many public purposes is bequeathing to its successors a fiscally starved economy, unable to afford a new national agenda. Well, there you go.
Yeah, so they gave all and took a lot.
Yes. Oh, one more thing. One last paragraph, because anytime they bring up movies, I always like because you can see a lot of this in the movies. In It's a Wonderful Life, which was a Lost directed testimonial to GIs. So It's a Wonderful Life was a Capra film, Lost Generation, but it starred GIs, Jimmy Stewart, who despairs at the worthlessness of his deeds until an older man shows him how, had he never lived, his town would have sunk to Pottersville. A corrupt, pleasure-seeking, lost-style abyss. Returning home, Stewart saves his government-subsidized savings and loan business thanks to gifts from young and old, repaying him for all the wonderful things he has done over his life. Contrast this with the GI image in the Boomer-directed Cocoon from 1980s. Senior citizens draining the strength of unborn aliens and then flying off to immortality while leaving their own children behind. Yet Cocoon presents GIs in such a warm light that this ghastly behavior seems perfectly natural, as though such friendly people deserve special treatment, no matter what it costs the young. No one likes to think of today's senior citizens as selfish, least of all themselves. They would rather just stand firm in the collective positiveness suggested by Hubert Pryor in his 1989 essay. So that's the GIs. Yeah, so much good discussion. There really isn't. Yeah. Crashing Taylor Hidden Swift still is going for Taylor Swift for president. I think that's going to be a small campaign, but if you want to go for it, go for it. Crazier things have happened. Our current POTUS used to host the #1 reality show in the world, so you never know what could happen.
Will she be 35 and 28?
She's already 35, I would think. She was born in 89. I know that because of her album, 1989, so that would make her, she's 35, 36 now.
Well, sure, I'd vote for her.
Oh, that's cute. Grey's Anatomy is as old as YouTube. I know Grey's Anatomy's been around since like 05. Yeah. Grey's Anatomy has been on forever.
No, but my kid came out like a month before YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I remember like about a month later after they were born, I was on YouTube when I was supposed to be working at the
Oh my
game.
goodness, that's funny.
I'm like,
All
look
right.
at this new thing.
Silent generation. Now, I should have said this when we started. The GIs would be the analogous generation to the millennials in our current seculum. The silent generation will be the analogous of Gen Z.
Yeah.
This generation,
which is why I have more hope for them. For Gen Z. Because the silence rock. The silence really did rock.
See, as I read all this, I started to not like them.
Really?
we are so opposite politically that it kind of makes sense. So it's kind of cute. I kind of like it. Okay, starting off, Silent Generation. Let's just they're 1925 to 1942. They're the adaptives. Their age location during the Great Depression, World War II crisis, they were in their youth, and they were awakening in midlife during the boom.
They created all the good art in the 60s.
They did. They did bring us a lot of really good art. I will give you that.
All of the good art and literature and music in the 60s. That's these guys.
They did, and a lot of the stuff that I credited to the boomers in my mind for pop culture was from the silence.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have silent. Well, a lot of the older Gen Xers have silent parents.
The Beatles are all silent.
Yeah.
They're all silent.
Yep. 49 is taking no chances, Fortune magazine's editors wrote of the gray flannel mentality of that year's class of college graduates. Class of 49. The first to consist mainly of Americans born after 1924. They are interested in the system rather than individual enterprise. Only 2% wish to be self-employed. Most of the rest wanted to work in big corporations offering job security. Never had American youth been so withdrawn, cautious, unimaginative, indifferent, unadventurous, and silent. GI historian William Manchester later quipped, "The silent generation was a name these young people didn't especially like, but they knew it fit." Hold on, let me go down here. We had no leaders. I'm sorry, real quick. We had no leaders, no program, no sense of our own power, and no culture exclusively our own, admitted Frank Conroy. Our clothing, manners, and lifestyle were unoriginal, scaled down versions of what we saw in the adults. And I would say this is a very good description of current Gen Z and even the youngest millennials. No leaders, no program, no sense of our own power, no culture exclusively our own. Everything, there's been no new culture since the 90s. Everything that the younger millennials and Gen Z have is just scaled down versions of what they saw before them. Am I wrong? Have a great night, Jessica.
No, not at all. And now that you mentioned that, yeah. There's just basically sequels and prequels and offshoots and lore,
Yeah.
That's what's important to them.
Yeah.
That's the
I guess their culture would maybe be TikTok.
Oh, absolutely.
But I mean, is that how but who's controlling all that?
It's not who's controlling it. They control it themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, really what it is the algorithm control it.
I was going to say they have the algorithm. Like the Chinese algorithm, from what I understand, supports education and especially for young kids, learning and education, and the algorithm in the United States pushes all entertainment and just nonsense. So who's pushing that algorithm, who's creating that is a big influence on what Gen Z is seeing, what they're hearing, what they're believing, what they're saying. So yes, they have some control, but whoever's controlling the algorithm really has the control.
I was gonna point out the gray flannel thing.
Yeah,
that refers. I don't know if people know that refers to a movie and a book called "The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit," which is about a guy who works on Madison Avenue, or he gets some sort of corporate job, and it's so that was their whole social that was their whole social society for a long time, is the corporate rat race.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's when you started getting that rat race mentality that, like, I'm bogged down in this and I can't move.
Right.
I can't do anything.
Well, they were all being created at the time too. A lot of the corporations were just starting out. They were in their infancy. It was
right.
And they got to help build a lot of them as a worker. A lot of times you got to build them. They were small enough, but it was a different time. Corporations then and corporations now are two totally different things. But a lot of some of the same principles.
I could not. I mean, I think I watched that. Obviously, Don Draper types.
Yep.
But even worse than that, I mean, Don Draper had some hand. John Draper had, he could have at least gone places and done things just because of who he was.
Yep.
I think a lot of folks during that time period didn't have any mobility other than lateral up until a point. They would get to a certain point, and that's it.
Yeah. This is very, very, very interesting. So, Silent Generation did not have a U.S. president until Joe Biden. So take that for what you will.
Never should have been,
Yeah, take that for what it's worth. Apart from a significant number of divorced women who never remarried, the silent life cycle, I love this, has been an escalator of prosperity, offering the maximum reward for the minimum initiative. That's a great time to be alive.
God, why wasn't I born then?
Right?
I wouldn't have to do anything, and everything would have been handed to me.
Exactly.
Because I'm a white dude.
An American, I would say, just because you're an American.
I'm a white dude in America. Yay, privilege.
American. Hey, Americans are very privileged people. I mean, if you make more than $30,000 a year, you are in the top 1% globally of income earners. Americans are very privileged people, and our ancestors worked hard to give us all of that, and I respect it tremendously. I think it's pretty badass, to be honest with you. As much as I'm skeptical, a lot of these people that we're reading about, what they built was incredible. I mean, never before in human history has a society been built like what the GIs and the Silent built. I
don't disagree.
Yeah, it's incredible.
The issue is we can do that for most people. Why can't we do that for everybody? So,
I mean, maybe, but why should we? Why should we do it for? Why can't we just do it for our own country? Like, can't other countries and other cultures do it
for our own?
Oh, gotcha. Well, yeah, definitely.
For our own people, that's what I'm saying. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, it's a privilege to be an American, and I think we need to treat it that way in our country. It is a privilege to be here and to experience the world that our ancestors have built. And I feel like a lot of times now that the mood is more negative towards what our ancestors built. Like, and I that makes me sad, because I think what they built was pretty incredible, and they did some pretty incredible things. It wasn't perfect by any means, but they did something in the course of human history that's never been done before. And I think that's
I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people's definition of patriotism relies more on having an affinity for the government of the current time period, rather than having an affinity for the country that was built.
Right. That's a good point.
And I am a patriot for the country that was built.
Right.
For the people that came before us who did the hard work, who laid down the foundations for a government that is as much as it can be by the people and for the people. And there hasn't been any other form of mass government for this amount of people that has succeeded as well as our democracy has.
Yeah.
Is it perfect? Hell no.
Not even close. There's no such thing as perfect. Yeah.
That said, can it be better? Absolutely. It can be better. But we have put systems in place to ensure that the most prosperity for the most amount of people exists in our country at this time.
Yeah.
Regardless of who is in charge or who is in the executive office.
Right. And that's what government should do, is should create an atmosphere of the best possible circumstances for as many people as possible. And, and that's what I think the role of government should be, is creating an environment that makes your people flourish and makes your people successful and makes your people, able to be free and pursue their own happiness. And
the older I get, the more libertarian I become.
Yes,
truly
absolutely.
More about, for me, it's truly at this point like, just let me live. All right.
Right. Agreed. And I always think that.
Don't bomb people.
Right.
But,
right.
Sorry, I'm on Guinness number 4, so I just
No worries.
Let me know if I'm going off the rails here.
No, it's okay. I don't mind just getting into specific politics discussions. I just don't want.
No. I don't want to get into I'm not going to get into Trump bashing.
Right.
It's not. That's not what we're here for.
Right. And it's just not.
See that. If you want to see that, do somewhere else.
Right.
I will be about generations.
Yeah.
And how it pertains to where we're at currently, and we can agree to disagree on those sticky subjects and move forward. I'm
Absolutely.
too Irish now. I'm telling you, man, I was born Jewish, but I really wanted to be Irish. So
Happy St. Patrick's Day. I completely agree. And
we would watch Dairy Girls, but we just finished a rewatch, so I'm not going to watch it again.
But yeah, I mean, and that's, and I will be as skeptical of the current administration as anybody, but I will also point out the wins when there's wins to be pointed out. And I feel like a lot of times, especially on the left, if it's something Trump does, then we have to be against it. And that doesn't make any sense to me either. That's not a good place to be.
I can say, I haven't liked everything that he's done. I haven't liked very many things that he's done.
Right.
There's 2 that I like his. He funded NASA. I'm happy about that.
Yes.
There's a couple things, but for the most part, I'm not happy.
Right.
I'll be happy when he's gone, and I'll be happy when anybody else is president. Who it is.
I'm looking forward to a post-Trump world just because of what's happened the last 10 years and what it's done to our country and our media and like.
I want us to get back to. Listen, I remember right after 9/11, there weren't a whole lot of people going, right wing, left wing, whatever. It was all, hey, we're all Americans.
Right.
I don't need something like another 9/11 to get us there, but I would like us to get there again.
I'm just worried that of how we get there. Being so fractured.
A great thing. We could have listen, what if we made our 250th anniversary a huge deal, What if we threw a huge
it should be a huge deal.
Bomb Iran, but these kind of things. If we hadn't done some things and made a big parade about it and made everybody feel good,
I wish we would. I was hoping and Trump had said we were going to have some big parties this year for 2050, and I wish we would because
me too.
I would love to celebrate our our country and what we've been through, the good and the bad, and it's worth celebrating. It's definitely worth. For those of you that were around in 1976, apparently that was the only thing that anybody cared about was the bicentennial, and 50 years later, it's not even really being acknowledged. So it's just kind of interesting.
It's not a smoke detector. It's my chair. Sorry. It tweets when I get excited.
Got the bleeps.
Sorry about
all right. That's all right. Let's go to page 283. As the silent broke and remade relationships, families splintered, substance abuse moved past euphoria to social damage, and American society lost its GI era sense of cohesion. As a generation of Daniel Ellsbergs pushed to get secrets out, their Phil Donahues and Ted Koppels aimed microphones everywhere, hoping more dialogue would somehow build a better society. Meanwhile, productivity stagnated, the economy sputtered, and the nation endured a series of global humiliations. In zero-sum society, Lester Thoreau suggested that increasingly improvement in the condition of any one group came at the expense of another. Interesting. What Jerry Brown called the age of limits became the zeitgeist theme of his generation. By the time the 1970s ended, an elder GI won the presidency in part by ridiculing this midlife mindset. They thought that they were going to get a silent into power in the 1980 election and or the 1984 election, and it did not happen. So that was the GIs held on for dear life. And semiquincentennial, is that what it is? Good Lord.
My quincentennial. Mondale was unelected. There was just no way Mondale was going to get elected.
No, Reagan won 49 states.
I remember.
Yep.
I remember that election.
Yeah, that was the first election I remember as well.
I remember Jimmy Carter getting elected, so that was weird.
Oh, you remember Jimmy Carter getting elected in 76?
Yeah,
really?
I remember my dad yelling at Nixon.
Really? Wow.
I remember my dad yelling at Nixon and refusing to display his 1974 UCLA diploma because it was signed by Ronald Reagan.
So you had a very Democrat-leaning parent structure.
Yeah,
on the flip side, I had a very Republican-leaning conservative.
The real hippie Democrats. That were my parents.
And I grew up in the Bible Belt where we went to church every Sunday. Yeah, so we had very different upbringings in the same country, which I love.
What is this church thing? I went to synagogue when I was a kid.
We went to church Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, and I went to Christian school from kindergarten through 8th grade. It was a very big part of my childhood.
I remember we used to go to synagogue on the high holidays, but then I remember one year I was messing around with some of the other Jewish kids who weren't interested in the Yom Kippur ceremonies, because let me tell you, those are boring. And I flipped off the lights in the entire synagogue auditorium. I think we were told not to come back after that.
Nice.
That could be apocryphal, but a good story.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
You were a little troublemaker back in the day, weren't you?
I was you know what? I was a real troublemaker until they had me tested, in school.
Yeah.
Around 3rd grade, and they're like, "Oh shit, this kid has a gifted fucking IQ. He's got a genius level IQ." And my dad was like, "Yay!" And I was like,
wow.
What?
Just so you know, I'm a big believer in school is tailored to girls, and I think boys get the short end of the stick in the way that school is structured, because they can't be little boys. They can't be boys.
They threw me in the gifted classes after that, and I didn't get so much trouble as I was like a little overwhelmed,
Yeah. I understand that. Now they don't even have gifted classes anymore. You can't be gifted. You can't be better than anybody else.
I was bored in regular class and getting all this stuff early, but then they threw me in gifted class, and I was like, why am I learning calculus? I'm in 4th grade. What the hell is going on? I'm not that smart.
They just gave me more work instead of like putting me. They did advance me a little bit because I skipped the 5th grade, but they would just give me more work of the same level instead of giving me too much advanced stuff. But they were just going to keep me busy when I was little. But yeah, school is. I can't believe that we use the same schooling system and style that we've used for over 100 years. Like, it's just wild to me with all the technology that we still do this public school system the same way.
Well, okay, so there's a really interesting point, because school systems are left up to the local governments.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that should be federalized?
I would say no in a million ways.
Sucks, so anything should be better, but at the same time, I don't think that the federal government's going to do a better job. So.
Well, no. Plus, they essentially federalized it with No Child Left Behind in 2004 because you can't get anything done. You can't get any federal money unless you play the federal game, and it's a whole mess. It's a whole mess. That's a conversation for another day. Let's get back to the silent. Even with Reagan at the helm, the America of the 1980s did in many ways become a silent style Tofflerian adhocracy, stressing expertise over simplicity, participation over authority, process over result. Corporations began directing more attention to organization and financing than to the products they made. Public over and under regulation became hot political issues, prompting Time magazine to play off memories of GI muscle by making the can't-do government the subject of a 1989 cover story, where the word liberal had once referred to a GI-style energizer with a constructive national agenda. Its meaning transformed into a silent-style innervator, attuned to multitudinous special interests. Beware of liberals who came of age politically in the 1950s, warned George Will. Likewise, the definition of conservative evolved from a lost-style cautious stewardship to the faintly hip, high-rolling optimism of the silenced new supply-side school, which calls upon the nation to undergo the economic equivalent of a liberating midlife passage full of zest and swagger and dare. As Michael Dukakis and Jack Kemp define these two new silent credos in politics, Alan Alda and Clint Eastwood, the later dubbed by one reviewer the supply-side star, define them in popular culture. Neoliberal to neoconservative, racial quotas to Laffer curves, this generation lacks a cohesive core and fears it may be presiding over the unraveling of America.
The Laffer curve.
The Laffer curve. Art Laffer.
That's the thing that what's his name is referencing in Ferris Bueller.
Yep.
When Ben Stein, when he's
Yep.
doing that. Does anybody know Reagan called it?
Ben Stein worked for the Nixon administration.
I know. I remember that. Anybody remember what Ronald Reagan called this? Voodoo economics? Something DOO economics? Voodoo economics?
Anyone?
So, okay, all joking aside here. I find that fascinating because at the same time as what they're describing that the silence were doing to America's society, you had the baby boomers who were who were transforming themselves from the young radicals to dual income, no kids yuppies.
Yep.
How much do you think the silent generation's total control over society and politics of the 80s, do you think rubbed off on the boomers? And do you think that perhaps may have changed the course of their cohort?
That's a big question, but I think I was actually thinking about that as I was reading this because I feel like what the silence did in the 80s, the boomers picked up in the 90s and just ran with it.
So, yeah, no doubt. The boomers were like, they saw it. They went, look what they did to us. Now, let's see if we can do it better.
Exactly. And globally, not just here in America.
Yes, exactly. We will. Oh, they did a good job here in America, but we can go global. I want sharks with freaking laser beams.
But yeah, so I mean, it's just that I didn't realize how much power over the culture that silence had in the 80s. I really thought that we were living in a boomer world at that time, but we weren't. We were living in silent world. Not yet. Yeah, we were boomers didn't really.
In certain areas, the areas, when you're in your 30s, what are those areas that are, important to people in their 20s and their 30s? Art, music, literature,
right?
Shit, pop culture,
right.
Pop culture came of age in the 80s and the 70s. In the 70s and the 80s, pop culture became, more and more important. What's important, to that cohort? What's important to when you're in that, that not
Stage of life,
child, not adolescent, but early adulthood,
rising adulthood. Yep.
What do you care about politics, or all you care about is making money and having fun and getting laid?
Yep.
And that's it. And those that become parents, then they have to start worrying about life.
Yep.
But, most of the kids, they didn't have kids yet, so they waited.
Yeah.
They waited until the 90s to have kids.
The 90s. Speaking of all of that, let's go to some silent facts. Starting on page 284. Facts, silent facts. Born mostly during an era of depression and war, the silent were the product of a birth rate trough. They later became the only American generation, until Gen X, to have fewer members per cohort than both the generation born just before it and just after it. So that's what we have in common with the silent, is that they had two large generations, one before, one after, just like we do. So that was very interesting. The silent were the earliest marrying and the earliest babying generation in American history.
Yeah.
That will not be the current generation of Zs, if they even get. I'm really concerned about this, about dating and marriage of the younger generations and the procreating I am so concerned about this. I don't know how a society functions with no gender mating, with no families, with no, I don't know.
Listen, we're not going to go. It's not going to go away completely. People are still having babies.
Yeah,
we're still going to have a population.
I think they said half of men in their 20s are virgins right now. That's insane. That's sad. No, and women, half of women under from 35 to 45 don't have children. These are numbers that have never been seen in societies before. So how do you, and then if you're having way less children and you're aborting the ones that you do conceive, how do you fund an economy when we get older, when millennials get older and you have no younger workers to feed into the system? How do you function? I don't know. Yeah, and I saw something yesterday that what they call IRL dating, in real life dating, is making a comeback. People are ditching millennials and Gen Z are ditching the apps, and they're starting to do in-person events, speed dating events, mixers, and that kind of stuff is starting to become a thing again, which I love. But I get very worried about this. Yeah. Yep. Look at China and how they are suffering from their one-child policy. It's true. And I see all these females. I see one of the biggest pop stars in the world telling a crowd of 100,000 people that men are useless. And that is not funny to me. That is damaging. For the biggest pop star in the world to tell all of her fans that men are useless. Come on. That's you're playing with fire, girls.
We are at the lowest fertility rate we've ever been to.
Yep. And it's sad, And I just want to tell Sabrina Carpenter, when she says stuff like men are useless, I want all the men who built and created all of the electronic equipment, the stage setup, the event that she's in, they just need to leave her alone and be like, all right, we're useless. Do it yourself, lady. Because men run her operation. It really rubs me the wrong way when I hear women say that. So, anyways, I just saw that before I got on here, so I was kind of mad about it. Silent facts.
Who was that?
Sabrina Carpenter. She's like the biggest female pop star in the world besides Taylor Swift. Oh, and the only reason I know that is because I have a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old. She's this little. You want to see it? All right, I'll show it.
No, I don't want to.
I'll show her. She's telling. She's at.
I'm kidding. I know who she is. She was on. Was she on the first episode of the Muppets?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I know she was.
Let's see her. She was at.
I believe she said it.
Lollapalooza. Here it is.
Oh well, maybe she was trying to make Lollapalooza relevant.
What do you call it? Come on. Or is it? I don't know what. Might be it.
So she's calling, they're describing men. They're useless. They're tired. They're like, she has all these different like descriptions, and she's all these girls just laughing. Men are useless. What do you call it? Stupid. Like, I just this stuff burns me. Like, I grew up with, pop stars that talked about love.
Well, maybe it's a breakup song. Maybe she's mad at the boy who broke her heart.
Yeah.
I like CeeLo Green's "F.U." So
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, but this could be why chivalry is dying. All I'm saying is that girls keep saying that men are useless. Well, in about even now, they're building electronic women that men aren't going to need real women. They're just not. They're seriously not. Don't call their bluff. Don't call their bluff, guys. So,
who am I simping for? What's simping anyway?
Are you simping for Sabrina? She's a cutie. She's like 4'11". She's super tiny, but I just can't imagine sitting in front of. She's so influential.
She's like 3 years older than my kid. My God.
Yeah. She's so influential to the younger generation of girls, and she's leading them in a rousing chorus of men are useless. Crouching Taylor Hidden Swift, $2. Like Sabrina. That's okay. You can like her. That's fine. I have no problem with that. It just makes me sad that is that is like one of the most famous women in the world right now. It's just makes me sad because men are really important. I really like them. They're very, very important.
Can I tell you? I hate you. No.
Okay. More facts. The late 20th century sexual revolution and the divorce epidemic have affected the silent more than any other generation. Of course, they wrote this in 91, but I would say it has affected all the generations after it. The late 20th century sexual revolution, divorce epidemic have affected the silent more than any others. From the 1950s to the 70s, they reported a larger age bracket increase in their frequency of sexual intercourse than any other generation. Similarly, silent men and women born between the mid-30s and early 40s showed the biggest age bracket jump in the divorce rate. From 1969 through 1975, as the silent surged into state legislatures, the number of states with no-fault divorce laws jumped from 0 to 45. So all of the it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Those were ads for the silent. They weren't ads for the baby boomers. They were the ads for the silent generation.
Yeah, the baby boomers didn't have any kids at that.
Exactly. So
yeah. And my parents did know where I was at 10 o'clock. I was in bed.
Yes.
Now, they may not have known where I was at 5, but they knew where I was at 10.
Right. Oh, gosh.
And if at 5 I was outside, they knew where I was.
Oh. Let's see here. The silent generation produced virtually every major figure in the modern civil rights movement, from the Little Rock Children to the youths at the Greensboro lunch counter, from Martin Luther King Jr. to Malcolm X, from Cesar Chavez's Farm Workers Union to Russell Means' American Indian movement. In politics and business, the silent have been a proven generation of bureaucratizers. Boy, if that's the truth. I love this. Compared with the GI-dominated Congress of the early 60s, silent Congresses in the mid-'80s convened twice as many hearings, debated for twice as many hours, hired 4 times as many staff, mailed 6 times as many letters to constituents, and enacted 1/3 as many laws. 84 committees had oversight responsibility for housing and urban development in the years just prior to its scandal. 84 committees. This is why I don't like big government. Let's talk about it and do nothing. Let's see. The silent at the time were the only living generation whose members would rather be in some age bracket other than the one they occupy. They like their 20s the best.
Like their 20s.
Yeah, right?
Freaking break. Ask anybody over the age of 35, and they'll be like,
Right.
who doesn't?
20s was fun.
decade. Well, 20s was the best. I had so much fun in my 20s. I did
The
so many
silent,
drugs and had so much sex. It was great.
the 20s were a blast.
Except that Gen Z's not going to say that. Gen Z,
No.
they had so many chat rooms and made so many OCs. It was amazing.
The silent life cycle in their youth. Overprotective was a word first used to describe our parents, said a silent Jen recalled of her Depression era youth. The first American generation to be born mainly in hospitals. Eisler's peers grew up hearing stern warnings
That's a
not
big
to do
deal.
that. Don't eat this. Don't go there.
Go back to that one. The first full generation to be mostly born in hospitals.
Yes.
Do you realize that means that more of their babies actually survived infancy?
Yes.
That's
Well, I
huge
mean,
deal.
infant mortality was a big deal up until the
Yeah.
20th century,
Yeah.
all over the world. Definitely made some,
Place it still is.
definitely made some big strides with that. Now when we lose a baby, it's usually because it was done on purpose, not because it was accidental. So unfortunately, that's how the world has gone. Let's see here. At the movies, The Little Rascals. If you want to think of the silent generation, that's The Little Rascals. They were kids at the time, and that was their generation.
Oh, Tate, Banky.
Okay, but we
Anybody know anything about the Little Rascals other than like buckwheat from frickin' Eddie Murphy?
I love
They probably don't even remember that either.
I remember Buckwheat. My
I
brothers.
saw that episode live.
Did you?
I did. I remember watching it live and going,
Who
not
shot
getting
Buckwheat?
it at the time. I didn't get it. I was because I think it was 81 or 82, and I was.
It was 81 or 80. Yeah, that
And I'm
sounds
like,
right.
I didn't get it. I hated that episode. Of course, now I think it's freaking brilliant.
My brother's avatar on all of his socials is Eddie Murphy's Buckwheat doing the Otay. Otay. And there was a movie in the 90s
Yeah,
called The Little Rascals that was fantastic.
I heard that wasn't bad. Yeah.
Oh, it was so good. I loved it, and it came out when I was in high school, and I just thought it was the greatest thing ever. We would watch it in college all the time because we just loved Alfalfa and how much he loved Darla, and his little notes to Darla loved it.
So I remember. I mean, my exposure to Little Rascals was through like school and after school programs. You know, they would show old film reels.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of it was just that old, you know.
Little Rascals played somewhere on television our whole childhood. I mean, it was on everywhere. And I just really...
We all knew the story of what happened to, like, Jackie Coogan and stuff.
They all died very young. They all died very sad lives.
Jackie Coogan lived a long time.
Oh, Jackie Coogan did? Okay.
Yeah, he's played Perry White in Superman the movie.
That's right. He was the one
And
that
he was
did
a member
live
of the Little
longer.
Rascals, and he was the one that they set up laws to protect children for.
Right. They started the child labor laws in Hollywood.
And
Yes.
of course, Robert Blake was also a Little Rascal.
Yes. It was Alfalfa and Spanky and Buckwheat that died early.
They all died really young.
Yeah.
After making like 75 movies each.
Yeah.
and being used and abused by early Hollywood.
Yeah, they definitely. But again, you know, the attitudes towards children have definitely changed. You know, we talked about about that last week about the
And,
attitudes for
and
children.
my understanding was Spanky was a real ladies' man. He
Man,
used that fame that he had as a child.
yeah.
I was Spanky. Want to know what that means?
No, I wanted to make T-shirts that say the He-Man Women Haters Club. No girls allowed.
No girls was spelled with a Z.
Yeah. I just thought that was so funny. The He-Man Women Haters Club. Oh, good times. Okay.
Yeah, there's a new He-Man movie coming out this year.
A new what?
He-Man movie.
Oh, that's right.
I'm actually looking forward to that.
Oh, I'll keep my hopes up, but I will see. I wrote in my notes, all generations since can relate to this passage. All right. Post-war silent youths came of age feeling an inner world tension amid the outer world calm. Not growing up angry, just growing up absurd. Older generations didn't expect them to achieve anything great, just to calibrate, to become expert at what GI economist Walter Heller called fine-tuning of the hydraulic GI wealth machine. Young adults in the 1950s, recalls Manchester, were content to tinker with techniques and technicalities and believed that progress lay in something called problem-solving meetings. I feel like that's a good way to explain a lot of generations since then. Inner world tension amid the outer world calm up until recently. In the 80s and 90s, it felt like outer world calm. In the 90s especially, like you get movies like Fight Club and Office Space, you have this inner world tension in the outer world calm of the 90s. But which was but yeah, you're just supposed to become an expert at what the previous generations built for you. That's kind of what I got from this. You don't grow up angry. It's just, you're not supposed to achieve anything great. You're just to take over what we built for you and move on. It's kind of what I got from that passage.
Yeah, you can't break any new ground because it's already been broken.
Right.
You can only improve on what we've already created. That's really stifling. And actually, that's going back to the man in the gray flannel suit. That's what they're railing against. That's, a lot of the pop culture of the time period. That's what they're talking about. Right. They don't necessarily agree with this idea that they're not supposed to have any creativity at all.
Right.
And that's why you get the huge explosion in the artistic movement of the late 60s and early 70s.
Definitely completely agree with that.
Because that's the only way that they had any power. Right. That's the only way that they could express themselves, through literature, through art, through music, through mass culture.
Right.
Not necessarily movies and TV, because that's still corporate, but especially the music and the art and literature of that time period.
Definitely the literature, the beatniks, that kind of stuff.
From the 60s on, from the late 50s onward, the mid 50s onward, you definitely had that disillusionment, which is the key word for that whole time period.
Well, there was this line here during their rising adulthood stage on page 288. It said that starting with the Soviets' 1957 Sputnik space shot, the silent generation started questioning American exceptionalism, which I think has really evolved since then on that. But that was the first spark of it was, are we really that great? Is this really the right way to go? What you built, can it not be improved upon? Can't we not change it?
And instead of going with that, they doubled down and said, absolutely, this is the right way to go. Yes. And not only that,
we're going to expand it around the world
for the next 10 years. How's that? Yep. Woohoo, we'll start a war in Southeast Asia you don't give a shit about.
So while some of them were starting to question American exceptionalism, and you had your civil rights leaders and things like that, On the right wing of the spectrum, you had Young Americans for Freedom, which challenged the big government centrism personified by the GI Nelson Rockefeller. Whatever their politics, though, the Rising Silent differed from boomers in their implicit acceptance of the permanence of GI institutions, like you just said. Even though they differed, they accepted the permanence of GI institutions. Didn't try to change anything. What silent workers put in, they got back. Whatever their professional field, management, law, civil service, or teaching, silent men could count on acquiring a house and car and on raising a family comfortably. Silent women, however, began to resent being trapped at home, and silent men prepared to break free of a claustrophobia they knew their elders had never felt. Noted William Styron as early as 1968, I think that the best of my generation, those in their late 30s or early 40s, have reversed the customary rules of the game and have grown more radical as they've gotten older. A disconcerting but healthy sign. So they were given a really great world that the GIs had built, and they benefited from it immensely, but then they all got unhappy. So they benefited from this really great system, and then the men felt claustrophobic and the women felt trapped. Like,
But
what?
do we do about it? What do we do about that? What do you do about that?
Like, that was just so.
We'll just go lounge on some resort for a while.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what?
like,
We'll
here's
do-
here's
you know
the
what?
greatest.
We'll-
Here's the greatest civilization ever built in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Now complain.
You know what they did is that they said, "Hey, we have this wonderful new drug. It's called Valium and lithium."
That's good.
And then the Rolling Stones sang a song about it, and you had a whole generation of people who just went, "Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I got mine."
Exactly. If I can make my money and take care of me and my family, then there it is. All right. I need to wrap this up. We're getting late here. Last couple of pages.
I ran out of Guinness.
Uh-oh. Let's get, then we definitely got to wrap this up.
I'm now having a here, it's a coffee port. Oh wow, it's a coffee porter with a yummy with an alien. No, it's a robot.
I was gonna say it's got a color on it that's capturing your
Yeah.
background. I am smoking Raspberry Kiss tonight. Ooh. And it's like all digital, like when you can see the readout on the thing of how much you have left and all that good stuff. It's very high tech.
Oh, hey, my kid's watching The Pit.
Oh, The Pit. I haven't seen that yet.
Ooh, it's good.
That's what I want to know, Rachel. Did they realize the greatness of what they inherited? I don't know. Like, they saw all the GIs went from uber, like not all, but many went from uber poor to very well off. And they all had homes and cars and professions that weren't just about farming for your food and trying to survive. But yet they're just like, no, this isn't fun. I don't know. I don't know if they knew what they inherited. All right. Page 290.
I can't, the only silent that I know is my stepfather, and he had a atypical youth and middle age. So,
Yeah.
but he was married with kids too. So, but I don't think he did the typical, sit down, have a family, wife, job,
Yeah.
kind of thing. He was more of a free spirit, and I don't see him as realizing what they had.
Right.
I think the silence, for the most part, I think the rank and file silence just kind of went with the flow.
Yeah. They did.
I don't think that they were really all that willing to rock the boat.
Right. And a lot of them
Because-
got wrapped up in. They were the first, like, well, boomers really were, but it still was very infant in the whole identifying teenagers and that stage of life, and that teens and 20 somethings became a different kind of life stage than it had been before, because you didn't have to go straight to work at 10 years old and work the family farm or work in the factory or whatever. Like, you could have this time between youth and adulthood. And
I guess, I mean, now that I think about it, though, I think maybe they did realize what they had, because don't forget, that's where the term the generation gap comes from.
True.
And so they already saw that there was a difference between themselves and the boomers. And, you know, yeah, I think they did. I think for the most part, some of them did understand what they had and wanted to keep it that way.
Yeah.
It's certainly an interesting, when you look at and look at the conservatives of that era, you know, you're looking at your Clint Eastwoods and your Ronald Reagans and that era of politician, and you look at the current right wing, and it just fascinates me that that's almost the same party.
Yeah, and I could say the same thing about the people on the left as well. Like, the parties have changed so much. Like, I mean, Reagan was a Democrat when he was governor of California, and he changed to Republican before he became president. But, like, you know, where politics landed in the whole paradigm, or the of the right left dynamic, has just changed tremendously. Like, I would say that the right wing of today is like the 90s liberals of Clinton era.
I was going to say they really have gone a little. Yeah.
The Overton window has definitely shifted leaps and bounds. That is for sure. All right, page 290. Having trouble meeting the power standard of next elders, which would be the GIs, or the ethical standards of their next juniors, the boomers, the silent men built a composite definition of masculinity. Self-styled liberated males put their families at risk by pursuing what John Updike called the post-pill paradise, and by succumbing to what Barbara Gordon called Jennifer fever, a fascination for free-spirited younger women. Midlife impresarios flaunted boom erotica in Playboy clubs, R-rated movies, and Calcutta stage productions. At one end of the silent male spectrum lay those who combined the softer features of their generational neighbors, a confident and gentle Merlin Olsen offering floral bouquets, I remember that, or a rational and sensitive Carl Sagan trying to communicate with extraterrestrials. At the other end lay the reverse mix, Chuck Norris or Clint Eastwood combining GI machismo with make my day boomer judgmentalism. Staring at the two ends from a muddled in-between sat the Woody Allens, torn between the available choices, like one of Gail Sheehy's peers who wished somebody would let me be what I am, tender sometimes, and independent too, but also vain and greedy and jealous and competitive.
Fucking creepy.
I know, right? Others became outspoken, out-of-the-closet gays, even transvestites. A female generation, nearly all of whom had married young, now insisted on being called Gloria Steinem's status-cloaking Ms., as their vanguard attacked man, the oppressor, for being a natural predator. Good God, this all was born back then, driven by metaphysical cannibalism. 40-ish women and men asked what Eisler termed the question that signals the end of every marriage: is this all there is? While all generations joined the divorce epidemic, the silent were by far the most likely to have children in the household, leaving them with the greatest residue of guilt. Good times. Good times. The last line of this section says, much of the doubt. Oh, wait. Let me start a little bit earlier because this last paragraph is pretty epic. If I can find it. Okay. The silent generation is clearing its throat, proclaimed Florida newspaper editor Tom Kelly as the 1990s dawned. All together now, let's hear it, softly but with feeling, for the silent generation, those over-ridiculed and underappreciated people. This modesty is disarming in a generation, two of whose members, Neil Armstrong and Martin Luther King Jr., will likely remain in some distant epoch among the most celebrated Americans. The peers of Armstrong and King may someday be credited as the generation that opened up the dusty closets of contemporary history, diversified the culture, made democracy work for the disadvantaged, and as one friend eulogized of Jim Henson, struck a Muppet-like balance between the sacred and the silly. Above all, the generation that took America from grinding bulldozers to user-friendly computers, from the circa 1960 nuclear age into the circa 1990 information age, has excelled at personal communication. The silent have constantly tried and often succeeded in diffusing conflict by encouraging people to talk to each other, from therapeutic tea groups on family problems to Nightline-style global town meetings on issues of major importance. They have thus lent flexibility to a GI-built world that otherwise might have split to pieces under boomer attack, and have helped mollify and ultimately cool the boomers' coming-of-age passions. Well, they did until 1992. Indeed, the silent have been path breakers for much of the 1960s era consciousness, from music to film, civil rights to Vietnam resistance, for which boomers too often claim credit. That was interesting. From youth forward, this most considerate of living generations has specialized not in grand constructions or lofty ideals, but rather in people. Life-size people, like the statues planned for the Korean War Memorial. Barbara Streisand's age mates would like to believe that people who need people are the luckiest people in the world, but true to form, they have their doubts. Much of this doubt might be resolved if America can someday inaugurate just one president who wore the 1950s era ducktail or ponytail. That would be Biden, who served in the Peace Corps, who maybe spent a summer with Snick in Mississippi, and who cried as only 30-year-old did when Martin and Bobby died. In 1990, when the mostly silent U.S. Congress wildly cheers the Czech playwright dissident President Václav Havel, many were no doubt recalling those old coffeehouse days and thinking, here is exactly the sort of avant-garde president we thought we'd someday give the world. Until they do, the story of their own generation will read to them like the middle pages of a book written mainly about somebody else.
Poor silence.
I know.
Man,
I know.
let's just vilify them a little more.
Well,
They're so meaningless.
They have a very, very interesting place in our history. That is definitely for sure. So yeah, that is the Great Power Cycle. That is the GIs and the Silent Gen. Very interesting. A lot of the stuff that I had in my mind placed on boomers and their place in this culture really came more from the silent in a lot of ways. And I should have known that. I should have known that because of the beatniks of the 50s and the early 60s civil rights. That wasn't boomers. That was silent.
No.
And I should have known that.
Well, the thing is, though, is they're so associated with the boomers because they were the boomers' idols.
Mm-hmm.
I heard nothing but great things about the beatniks. Listen to you. I've read the beatniks. They're not that great.
No, Naked Lunch. I was just like, what even is this?
Oh, Naked Lunch is all right, but like on the road.
On the road. You got to do a lot of drugs to even.
I've done a lot of drugs.
I've done a lot of drugs too, and I still.
I'm like, listen, but I also don't particularly care for Catcher in the Rye either.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, some of that stuff needs to be read, but the fact that it was so pushed in our curriculums at school, some of that stuff, it's just like, why?
Well, because the real thing is that because it was that influential during a certain time period. That's why you study it.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to understand what its importance is. You may not agree with it.
Right.
For example, 1970s Midnight Cowboy is lauded as one of the greatest movies ever made. I have seen it. I do not care for it. I think it's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
But I understand how it's important. I think Dustin Hoffman just way overacts in that movie. And John Voight is just not believable as a hustler. So, but that said, it has a wonderful song. I love the song. And it's shot very well, and it's shot in New York, very gritty. People hadn't seen stuff like that.
I'm walking here.
I've seen that New York look like that prior to 1970.
Right.
In cinema. It really had been more of a glossy kind of, this is what New York is. It's a great place. They weren't showing the seedy side of New York until.
Right.
So I understand its importance. It doesn't mean I have to like it. So, but I
Right.
understand its importance. I understand its place in the modern landscape. I understand why it got an X rating. You know,
Yeah.
you get all of that. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Easy
Yeah.
Rider, great example.
Yeah.
Example. Easy Rider is about 2/3 of a good movie, and then the last third part of that movie is just absolute, including the ending, is absolute garbage. And
Yeah.
they honestly, I think they were doing way too much drugs on that movie. And while there is some great shit about it, listen, I love parts of that movie, and I will watch that movie again, but I will never watch the end of it.
Yeah.
Garbage. So, but Easy Rider, that's such an important movie to the boomers.
Yeah.
So important to them.
It was the end of the old Hollywood era when they changed
Mhm.
over from the studio systems into the new era of Hollywood. That's why every 70s movie looks like
Looks
it's
like gritty,
gritty drama. Like,
yeah.
They that's when,
Don't get
and
me
then
wrong, I love all of that stuff too. I was there. I remember it when it came out, and I remember watching the impact of, you know, maybe not the French Connection. I was a little too young, but like, you know, this, it was from 75 onwards, of course. You know, the you could see movies changing.
yeah. You had the
You know,
disaster
that's great.
movies. You had your disaster movies, your Jaws, your blockbusters, and into your Star Wars. Like the
And
early
then you have
70s into the
Kramer
late
versus
70s.
Kramer, and you're
Yep.
on Golden Pond, and you're
Mhm. It's a
and
very
you're,
interesting
you
time for
know,
movies.
yeah, it's such a weird time period.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, this was a fun discussion.
Japanese movies some more.
Yeah. Did I blow your all mind that Gen X has chosen every president our entire lives?
I love that.
I was really proud of myself when I discovered that. I was like, oh my god.
Of course, I voted with the millennials, so
Yeah.
I wasn't all that happy about it.
That's okay. You're
It's not
allowed.
about winning. It's not about winning. It's
No,
about, you
no.
know, surviving. Yeah, that's what
Yep.
it's about, surviving.
But I think we're gonna see this is one of the reasons though why I feel like a Zennial is going to emerge as the next leader, because it's
I agree.
a mixture of of both generations. I think that's what, you know, that would make the most sense in this theory. But we'll see what we get. I am so interested to see where our elections go from this year to and then into 28. It'll be, I mean, this is a do or die time for the direction of our country, wherever it ends up going. This is a very decisive moment in our history, and it's, you know, we're in the fourth turning, and I can't wait to get to the fourth turning. We're almost there, guys. We've probably got 3 weeks left in Generations before we get to the fourth turning. Maybe 4, but we're getting there, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to really go through this, and
I can say this for when we get to the fourth turning. I hope the audience watching us decides to drink along with us, and I think we should institute a drinking game while we're doing that.
That'd be a very Gen X thing to do. Institute a drinking game into our book club.
Yeah, and we'd be really drunk at the end of it.
We gotta have, or maybe some kind of a
St.
bingo
Patty's
card.
Day worked for me, but maybe that's just the St. Patty's Day talking. But the fourth turning will blow your mind if you haven't read it. I would encourage you to. I mean, I do definitely keep reading Generations. We'll get to the next ones we're going to, but the fourth turning is, I can't. You can't underplay it enough.
No.
It really will, like, make your mind melt, and you will start to see the world. It's like you're doing, you know, like reading the fourth turning is like dropping acid for the first time. You know,
Well,
I don't know if
and
you've
the
ever
thing
seen
is,
acid, but that's what it's like.
reading Generations and having all of this, it's going to make Generation. If you're not a big fan of Generations right now,
Yeah, you're not gonna like it.
your fourth turning is going to give you a whole new perspective onto this generational theory. It's going to bring it all together, and it's literally going to make your head explode. It's incredible. So I'm excited. Next week, which chapters? Thank you, Kitaya. Next week, let's do chapter 11.
Boomers
And Gen X, baby.
Boomers
So-
and proto-Gen X. Because we're not
Yeah.
because let's face it, this book was written in 1991, and we were
Right.
15 to 25 in 10
Yep.
to 15, 20 to 25, whatever
Yep,
it is.
yep.
91, I was 20.
We were just reaching our rising adulthood.
We were
this
just becoming who we are.
Yes.
And
But we
so-
hadn't hit the culture yet because Nirvana had came out right after this book. Nirvana broke right after this book was published, and then Reality Bites came out the next year. So we hadn't even hit the culture yet when this was written. So this last chapter 11, well, not the last, but the next chapter, it's about boomers, Gen X, and millennials circa 1991. So I'm gonna try to get through the whole chapter next week instead of breaking it up into weeks.
because it's not,
because it's still very early on in our life cycle. And then we will start, once we get through the millennial cycle, we'll start teasing past this prologue, because then after next week, the following week, we get into the predictions of, based on this theory, what's going to happen. And
it's going to happen in 2005.
I know, right? What do they think is going to happen in 2008 or 2020? We have a Gen Wire here. Yay.
Listen, just because we're Gen X does not mean you're not welcome.
Absolutely.
I personally have a Gen Z sitting on the sofa here.
Nice.
Who is my window into Generation Z, and my child is definitely a very good example of a Gen Zer.
Yeah.
I
I have a couple of good examples too. I have a boy and a girl.
Yeah.
And
so do I. I have a boy and a girl.
So I have perspective from both sides, which is very interesting. But yeah, my boy is currently at an Air Force base working on planes.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well, I hope he's
plane
safe.
mechanic. He
And
is.
for his service.
Yes.
We always
you.
support no matter who or what is going on.
Yep.
That's something I remember from the 70s, that
Mhm.
when our GIs came back from Vietnam, they were treated very badly.
Right.
And that is not right. And that
No.
it doesn't matter. It does not matter what side of the political spectrum you are on.
Absolutely.
You support whoever is brave enough to join the military. I came from a military family. I did not serve, but I have the utmost respect for those who
Amen.
serve. So
Those, and not just the soldiers, but their families as well, and the
Absolutely.
sacrifices that they.
I grew up in San Diego, so
So you were right near Miramar and all the
friends were in the Navy or
Top Gun, baby.
I went to air shows up at Top Gun.
Oh, fun!
Yeah,
fun.
Man, that was cool.
I bet.
Cool, man.
So this is going to
we
be a fun conversation. It's going to continue being a fun
were liberal
conversation.
growing up in very conservative San Diego. That was fun.
I bet. Well, California was a Republican-led state until the 90s, I think. I think it was Jerry Brown was the first Dem governor that they had after a long string of Republicans. But they were red for a long time.
No, but after Jerry Brown, we had a bunch of Republicans too.
Yeah, you had Arnold in there for a while, and I think you're about to get another Republican governor. That's going to be wild if you guys get a Republican governor. I can't imagine how that's going to work.
I don't even know who's up running for the Republican side.
I don't know the names of anybody. I just know that the two Republicans, the way that your all's voting is set up, the two Republicans have the most percentage in the polls right now, and it's the two top that go to the general election no matter what their party is. So unless some Democrats drop out so they can combine their support amongst, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But right now, the
No.
two Republicans are on top.
Little Joe was born in San Diego. What part? I spent 1980 to 1990 living in San Diego, college area, Linda Vista.
Nice.
Mostly. And I actually
I've
went
never
back.
been to San Diego. I've heard it's
Oh,
amazing.
beautiful. It is.
Yeah.
I will say this: San Diego, fighter town. Yeah, I will say that San Diego is a beautiful place to visit. I highly recommend you go there. Spend a weekend. Spend a week. I don't know that I could live there again, but I do think about it. So I still have tons of friends down there who still live there, and it is. I want to go back. I want to go back this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. The weather is amazing, but it's a vibe.
It is a
And-
vibe.
It's a vibe, and I'm so used to. I've been back in LA for 20, almost 30 years, and I'm so used to the LA vibe that when I was in San Diego, the vibe didn't mesh.
Right.
You know?
I get that. I mean, anytime I've been to California or New York or any of the coast cities, the big cities, they're fun to visit, but the vibe is just not. I mean, when you grow up in a small town in the middle of the country, it's just a different vibe and a different experience. And I often think that, especially in our media, at least when we were growing up, I mean, everything was so California and New York focused that, we're called flyover country for a
Right.
reason. But I
Right.
think that has really hurt both parties. And when it comes to national politics, is because it seems like everything is birthed out of DC and New York and California,
Yeah.
and nothing for anybody else in any other state. And it's like,
But
hey, we're here.
The unfortunate, sad thing, though, is if you look at the density of population, it is all
Mm-hmm.
the more people live on both of the coasts than live everywhere else.
Sure.
So,
Sure. But it's not just about
Absolutely.
people, it's also about geography and resources and
Absolutely.
all and cultures and things like that,
Yeah,
Yosemite, nice.
I've been there.
Yeah, flyover is a rude thing to say. I agree.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
When you talk about representation in the media, Midwesterners never get any representation in the media. Canadians get more representation than we did growing up in the media. The Midwest was just those crazy Bible beaters in the middle of the country. You backwards folk.
And yet there was that huge push in the early to mid 70s to appeal, at least on television, to the Midwest. You had all those shows like The Waltons, Little House.
Well, but you also had in the 60s, it was really big. Then you had the Rural Purge, which happened with All in the Family. What's his name? The guy that
Aaron Spelling and Grant Ticker. Yeah.
Who was the guy that did All in the Family and Good Times and
Norman Lear.
Norman Lear, thank you. Norman Lear came on the scene, and CBS literally they called it a rural purge. They canceled Beverly Hillbillies, Hee Haw, Petticoat Junction, Mayberry RFD, like everything from that. But yeah, anyways, it's getting late, and I got a cat that's been yelling at me since we started.
How many states have you traveled? I am not well traveled. I've only been to a handful of states. I've been to DC and New York and a bunch of Western states, Nevada, Arizona, Utah. I spent a lot of time in Utah, but California. I've never been to Oregon or Washington. Any other state I've been to is just probably airport.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not very well traveled.
Yeah,
I will say that it's something that I would like to be more well traveled. I started off working at hotels in my careers. And
that'd have been a great way to travel.
Yeah, but I worked at desk at hotels, and for some reason, I just never
Never did it.
Staying in hotels. So yeah.
Oh my goodness! When I worked for the Holiday Inn, I worked for the Holiday Inn in college for a little bit, and $15 hotel rooms at any Holiday Inn anywhere, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm in!" I went everywhere.
I worked for Vagabond for 2 years, and I worked for a resort for 2.5 years. And Vagabond I could have gone anywhere, but the resort was only regional, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
I could go anywhere in the city, but which I did.
No.
I got a lot of the resort we owned that I worked for owned a concert venue, Humphrey's Half Moon Inn in San Diego, and every summer they had fantastic concerts. And when I worked for them, I saw like 6 concerts that summer. It was
nice.
All on the right on the water, like awesome jazz, and I saw Roseanne Barr.
Nice.
There, yeah.
That is so cool. That's one thing that I think is going to be a Gen X thing is the whole idea of concerts and festivals and
oh my
the
God,
live music.
Like,
I mean, I hate that it's
so expensive.
Yeah, they price everybody out of it.
They do, and it's also like, I mean, people are still going. I actually went to a concert in October. 21 Pilots. We won tickets off the radio. And it was a super lot of fun, but it was such a weird experience from going to a concert when I was in my sorry, I have to oil the chair. I did actually put some WD-40 on it.
Good to have goals. I love that.
I'm trying. I'm working on it. I'll try to get a new chair. Okay, if you want to send to go.
Oh, but as far as the states go, I have been to about around 35 states.
Wow, yeah, you're way more traveled than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I have traveled. I've lived all over the country. I've lived in Missouri, Kansas, Utah, Texas. So I've lived different places. I will say that as I am planning out my channel for the next couple of years, because you got to have places where you're going to work towards for your channel, because I can't just talk about 80s TV shows forever on my channel. But I think in 2027 or 2028, I'm not quite sure which one, but I'm going to go on the road, and I'm gonna do some road trips around the country.
Oh my God, really?
Yes.
That's amazing. You're gonna actually leave your.
I'm gonna leave my house, but the only way I'm going to do it.
You got to come here, or if you go somewhere that's not that far, I will come meet you. If you go to Vegas or.
Absolutely. Well, my plan is I want to do. I've been to Hawaii, but I don't think I'll ever go to Alaska. That's just too far. But I'd like to go. I'd like to do the all 48. Over a couple of years. It depends on a lot of things, like my dad's health and things like that. But my plan would be to get I want to get a nice Toyota and get a nice teardrop trailer to pull and just kind of take my dog and just start doing on some road trips. And so and do things like not just, I mean, I would do like filming locations for movies and things, but that's been done so much. I would like to go into do you guys remember in the 70s, there was a show, there was a guy named Charles Kuralt.
Sure, yeah, on the road.
On the road. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was CBS Sunday mornings. I was going to take I was going to go through all of his on the road specials or series and maybe go back to some of the places that he went to 50 years later.
Great.
Yeah. And so I kind of want to do American history, Gen X history, 70s and 80s, go to some different places, different, not just movies, but like towns where different industries were. And, where if you or your parents were at the big furniture factory, and North Carolina used to be a hub of furniture. Like every furniture factory was there. And like now they're all gone. Everything comes from China. So there were all these different industries that were all over the country that people's parents worked in growing up, and factories that were shut down. And I would just like to kind of go kind of a mix, kind of like a revival of On the Road, kind of revisit some of the stuff that he did, and then maybe do something from more of a Gen X lens as far as American history. So that's, so Midwestern Hill Hauser. That's exactly right. Yes. Yep.
Oh, Hill Hauser was the best.
Right. So that's kind of like where I feel like my niche is going to be in YouTube in the future. It's not just going to be just videos about TV shows, but about American culture and about the Gen X experience growing up in different towns and different places and that kind of a thing. So, hey, 20 states is really great. I mean, I mean, people don't realize, especially non-Americans don't realize how freaking big America is. When Americans get shat on for not having passports, well, we don't need them. Because if you're in Europe, you can just hop and skip to like 12 different countries when you're in Europe easily.
Yeah, here we can go to 2.
For me, I could drive 10 hours in Texas and still be in Texas. Like, it is a large country.
I could go, what is it, 2.5 hours south and be in Mexico.
Yeah.
Or I can go, what is it, 20 hours north?
And be in Canada.
I don't know. I've never done that. So.
Yep. Natalie across the nation. It'll be something like that. And then also, in addition to the on the road stuff, and like, I would like to meet up with my different subscribers in different places and talk to them. And, just, I will definitely, so that's, like I said, that's a long-term plan because it requires, my dad's health is kind of the thing that I have to work all my plans around, because I am his caretaker, and he's currently going through chemo. So that I have to go through that. But as I can't be a 50-year-old, 60-year-old woman doing videos about, Sesame Street. Like I've got to expand the channel a little bit and do some different things. And so this is kind of like where I feel like I'm headed in the future for my channel, but we'll see how it goes.
What about scouting for that empty mall?
That's the other thing. I will be scouting for my
into a home for retired Gen Xers.
Yes, exactly.
I know my ex-girlfriend would love that.
I love that. I want to buy a rundown town.
Coast, I want to those videos for.
Yes. I would like to crowdsource some funding, and if I can find a town, like a small rundown town that can be bought, like Kim Basinger style, if I could find and crowdsource and crowdfund and then buy the town and then build it into a 80s, 90s town where like all of the modern technologies you have to leave at the door.
Netflix to sponsor us, man. They take
right.
They would make up. If you're like, hey, listen, I want to go buy a town and turn it into Hawkins, they would do it in a heartbeat.
Yep.
I already saw some dude was somewhere in some convention that did a Blockbuster video. They recreated a Blockbuster video.
The number one game on Steam this week is a recreation of running a video store. It's a new game where you get to manage and run your own video rental store. That is the number one game on Steam right now. I'm getting ready to go buy it.
I think I ready to play that. I just found, speaking of Gen X shit, I just found a website. I'm a Mac guy. I just found a website that has every Mac OS emulated, and you can play them, and they all have all the old games. Like, so I was playing original SimCity last night on an emulated OS X9 in color. But it was the original SimCity from like 1990.
That's amazing.
Was having a blast,
I bet. I was looking for the only reason I know that this game is out there is because I used to play Civilization back in the 90s, which which was I've never been a gamer. I played my Atari when I was a little kid, and then in college I had a moment with the N64 and GoldenEye. Okay. And Sid Meier's Civilization. And I was thinking the other day, I was like, I'd like to kind of revisit some like that game, and I know they have like number 6 or 7 out now, and kind of play it again.
You could probably find an old version and emulate it somewhere on the internet and play it through a browser. Because your browser is more powerful than your old computers. So
right. Well, and the computer system I have right now is like perfect for gaming. Like I could do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, we are creating a cult town.
Oh yeah, of course we are.
But like the only internet in the town will be an internet cafe. I'm not sure if I'm going to allow it at people's houses
or dial-up.
Or if you want to get dial-up, no social media.
That would be no Wi-Fi. You can't have Wi-Fi. No
right.
Wi-Fi in town. And no cell phone service. We'd have to
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Kibosh the cell phones.
I would cut off all media and television after about 2011 would be my cutoff for movies and TV. We're not watching anything made after 2011.
When did the CW and the WB merge?
Yeah, CW and WB merged in 2004, I believe.
Okay, so that's fair. That's safe then.
Yeah, it was after I left the WB, and I left in 2000. No, I was at WB till 2005. It might have been 2005.
When did Netflix first start streaming? That's the year.
When did Netflix start streaming?
Yeah.
2007, 8, 9, somewhere in there.
Well, then we have, yes, 2006. Then that's it.
The only reason I go
that's the year my kid was born. So.
I go through 2011 simply so we can include Tropic Thunder, Hangover, and Bridesmaids, and Step Brothers, because those are some of my favorite comedies. But those were at the very end of the aughts. So
Tropic Thunder. Wait, what did you? Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder, The Hangover, and Bridesmaids.
Okay.
All Gen X comedies. So, all Gen Xers. So that's, pagers for everyone. That is correct. Ooh, a Gen X convention would be kind of fun. Maybe I could do something like that. Have a Gen X convention.
Can you imagine we could get some awesome guests?
Yeah.
I know a ton of Gen Xers out on that. Like
I know.
Diane Franklin and E.G. Daily and Andrew McCarthy probably.
Yep.
I bet you we could get Zach Morris. He isn't doing anything anymore. What is Mark Gosler doing?
I don't know. I probably should start attending some of these fan conventions, but we need to have I need maybe just to create my own Gen X convention. Oh man. Recreate the underage nightclub. I was thinking as a business idea, and then I have to wrap this up because I gotta go. But I was thinking as a business idea, opening up a place called Third Space.
Yeah.
And instead of it being, because the young kids don't drink alcohol,
right?
But they do vape and they do drink fancy coffees and drinks. So I thought you could create a place called Third Space, and the idea would be kind of be like a bar with no alcohol. And instead you'd have a coffee bar, and you'd have like a soda fountain, like the old school soda fountains with fancy drinks. And then you could have a room for like board games, a room for video games, a room for like a place for live music, and just have like this Third Space socialized venue for all, like, for people to get back to socialize again. But and have and charge like a cover to get in, and then you're in. And then you can go play games. You can, hang out at the coffee bar. You can have some books around. You can just a place for people to hang out together. I think that would be a fun. Everyone's talking to Pinterest Big. Yep, a board game, card games room, a place to where, there could be like a pizza. There could be like a cup of pizza in there from The Jerk, because I've always wanted to open a cup of pizza. My favorite movie in the world is The Jerk.
I was born a poor black child.
It could have a dance floor. You could have a beer garden. So like if you wanted to have a night you have a couple of kegs out there or whatever, but that way, somebody has got to create a new Third Space, because we are all there's no more churches or like we don't hang out at church socials, and we don't go to bars, and we don't like.
There are out here. There's an amazing barcade that I love.
Arcade, that'd be another thing. You have an arcade room.
Also a place called the Guild Hall, which is a fun and games bar, and they have all sorts of board games and shit.
Okay, so
there's plenty of barcades around, but there needs to be more.
Third spaces,
more Third Spaces.
The young place, a place where the young people can gather and hang out together, and have those IRL date nights, and have those, pick up pool tables. You can have ping pong table. You can have all kinds of stuff. Just in real life games. You can have a movie room with a huge big screen where you can all watch movies together. Like you could have, like skee ball. Like it would be like. Yeah, just like a Third Space where you can hang out and do stuff together, whatever it is, whether it's read a book or play a game or drink coffee or listen to a band or, whatever. So Yes, I mean people actually speak to each other. Make it a 50 and over. You could have 50 and over nights, and you could have 18 and under afternoons after school, so the young kids can have a place to go hang out together. Like you could have specific age nights, but yeah, and just kind of build a third space that's not centered around alcohol, because it's just not a socializer anymore like it used to be when we were younger. So anyway, that's my business idea. I have lots of business ideas, but
Let's do it.
what will happen to the incels? They're gonna get laid, and that's what we want.
I mean, not for nothing. Yeah.
Let's get everybody gets laid.
They really, I would like to. They really do. A lot of them need to get laid.
Yes. Tonight at the Pit, everyone gets laid. Has anybody seen PCU? I love that movie.
Yeah. Actually, there is still a theater near me that plays Rocky Horror. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah, more kids need to go to Rocky Horror too.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Theaters do play that kind of stuff, but like, I'm just saying there needs to be a third space where like a multimedia third space with, all kinds of different things you can do and hang out together and just
By the way, watching Rocky Horror on disc is blasphemy.
Oh, in Discord. We watched it in Discord. I think that's what that meant. Yeah.
Blasphemy, blasphemy.
We're gonna bring back the Silent Jen's key parties of the 70s. Everybody dropped their keys in the bowl and locked the door.
It wasn't boomers doing that. It was the silent.
It was the silent. So that's that one. Yeah, on Tuesday night will be everybody gets laid night. You drop your keys in the bowl when you come into the room, and then at the end of the night you pick out your keys of who you're going home with. That's our new. That'd be a special weeknight event.
Okay.
Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight, Grendelson. I appreciate the wonderful discussion.
Always.
It's so cool that we can be so different and yet get along so well, and I love that.
We should do a podcast.
We should do a podcast.
Yeah,
that's something that I might do in the future as well. We shall see.
From the left and the right.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Do it.
I'm always right, baby.
And I'm always left. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys so very much.
That's gotta be our thing. I'm always right and I'm always left. Love it. Okay.
Next movie night will be Monday night. Last night we watched Soylent Green. That was fun.
Did they realize Soylent Green was people, and did they realize there's a real fucking product called Soylent Green now?
Yes, we watched about that.
So fucking annoying to me. Oh my god.
I know. Monday nights are movie nights in the Discord. Wednesday nights we do Little House on the Prairie and Cobra Kai. Thursday nights we do The Incredible Hulk. So definitely hang out. Three lefts make a right. Eclectic Deb.
Bring back Friday Night Free For All.
What I really love, I mean, the podcast is kind of a good idea because you got the guy is the one on the left and the girl is the one on the right, which is so opposite really from weird. Younger kids.
Yeah. Weird. Let's talk about that first fucking first podcast. Let's talk about that.
Yep.
Like, why is this guy on the left? Well, he's on the left because he gets boomer parents, and
why is this girl on the right? Why does this girl want to repeal the 19th? Oh, I'd repeal it in a heartbeat. But that's a conversation for another day.
You don't want women to vote?
I don't know. I think it should be. It's a big conversation, but
only landowners should vote.
Well, that's how it originally was. I think men only got the vote to like 30.
Male landowners should be able to vote. Damn it!
Hey, men only got the right to vote about 2 decades before the women did. Yes, the podcast can fund the road trip or business idea. I have lots of ideas. I just got to make it work and get the funding. That's always the big thing. Yeah, repeal the 16th and the 17th. If you're on SSRIs, you should vote.
They're really good at writing grant documents. So.
They are.
Be good at that. Why do you give me money? I need money. Why?
Yes, money, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
because liberals aren't afraid to ask for it.
Yeah. Liberals love to spend other people's money.
Well, absolutely, I want to spend it. I don't want to spend my own money because I don't have it.
All right. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much. I will see you all back here next Tuesday. Grandelson, have a great night. Bye-bye, guys.
Right.